Hey guys, it's me Kitsundere, and you can call me Kit, and welcome back to my channel. And in this video, I'm going to be discussing my opinions on subbed anime and dubbed anime. Let's talk about it. Let's start off with what they have in common. My first point is that I find it really cool how we have subbed on one side, which is still the original Japanese audio, so we can still hear how it's supposed to sound, but plus they have the subtitles, so we're able to actually understand and read what they're saying, because there's no way, unless you study Japanese, there's no way we can just listen to them out of nowhere and just know what they're saying, you know? So it's really cool that they have subbed and we can still listen to the original audio from the show. But on the other side, it's really cool that we have dubbed, so we're watching it in English or French or Spanish, any other language that you can't really understand Japanese, but we're actually hearing it from the same video from Japan, but in a way, in the end, we're all watching it, so it all brings us together. So let's say, for example, you could be in Mexico, then somebody could be in Japan, so if you guys somehow find a way to communicate with each other, you know, at least that you guys can see the same show, you have to talk about the same thing. So that's really cool. That's why I really loved how they have dubbed and subbed. So if you don't want to sit there and try to read subtitles, and it's just a really good way for all of us weebs to combine and just merge and talk to each other about the same shows. And it's really cool though, because you'll be able to find another person in another country that has the same waifu as you, even though somebody loved Otaru. Bruh, we fighting because she's mine. I'm just playing, guys, I'm just playing. Even though it is really cool that we're able to watch Japanese in its original audio with subbed and watch it in our own language, there are some cons about it that I feel like I need to discuss. But before I talk about the cons, because I know that's gonna trigger a lot of you guys, I just want to give you guys a little bit of my perception on how I see subbed anime and dubbed anime. I said this plenty of times on my old channel, but this is the new one, so I feel like, hey, let me say it again. So if you guys aren't aware, Attack on Titan was the first anime that I actually tried to watch, alright? And of course, I didn't know about dubbed anime at the time. All I saw was subbed, and when I first saw Attack on Titan, one of my friends back in high school recommended it to me. So I saw it on Netflix, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Let me check it out. So I clicked on it. First, my first thought was, they're not speaking English. And what are these words at the bottom? So I sat there during the first episode trying to figure out what is going on. And to be honest with you, there is no way for me to keep up with the subtitles, because I'm a decent reader, but trying to watch the show and read the subtitles at the same time, I just could not do it. So I ended up dropping anime for a good month or so because I just couldn't figure it out. But luckily, spring break just happened to come along, and I met one of my best friends that I'm still friends with today, you know, and I met him on Xbox too, so yo, that's pretty crazy. And we were playing Black Ops 2, and he asked me, hey dude, do you watch anime? And I told him my whole situation about how I tried to watch Attack on Titan, but the subtitles were just too fast. Then he mentioned that they have it in English, and this is mind-blowing to me because I had no idea that they had anime in English, because it's a Japanese animation, you know, so how is it gonna be in English? At the time, of course, I used to watch TV back then, so I always saw Toonami on there, and I didn't even realize that they had Dragon Ball Z, Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo in English. But you know, I always saw those, but it's not really interested. I'll stick with my Adventures of Gumball over here. Actually, that show is a bit too modern. I would say go back in time, maybe Chowder, maybe a bit further back than that. So after I found out about this amazing news, so he happened to mention SAO, and when I asked him, dude, what is that one about? He told me the whole premise about it, how it's about a boy who goes into this VR game and he gets trapped and he has to fight his way out. So I'm thinking, hey, that's pretty cool. And luckily it was on Netflix. And I don't know, I haven't checked Netflix in a while. I'm pretty sure it's still on there though, considering how popular it is. So yeah, luckily they have the dubbed on Netflix, so I was able to go through. I binge watched that, because we're on spring break, so I have plenty of time in the world. So I just happened to binge watch all those episodes, and we met back up on Xbox, and I had to confront him. I'm like, dude, SAO, what you just told me to watch right now is legitness. I need more. So he told me about Fairy Tail. So yeah, that started a huge chain reaction of me just watching dubbed anime. Then eventually it got to the point where she recommended some shows, but they weren't dubbed yet. So I kind of had to force myself to watch the subbed in order for me to actually watch the show. So over time, I started watching all these subbed anime. Then my brain just got used to it. Now I'm able to read the subtitles and watch the show at the same time. I probably like a little dark-skinned chameleon, but hey, I'm still watching the show. I'm able to actually look at the words and watch the show at the same time. It's really cool how I've been watching anime for I would say a good long while now. It's not like a character could say something and I don't have to look at the screen, but I kind of know what they're saying, or I can just read the moment, so I kind of know what they're gonna say. And if that is the case, then I can actually focus on the words that they're saying. So that's also another cool way how to learn how to speak Japanese. So wrapping up my whole perspective on dubbed and subbed anime. Dubbed anime has definitely helped me out in the beginning stages of my weebdom. Of course, I've ascended to a higher place now. But back then when I first started, there's no way I could have even attempted to read the subbed. But now, of course, I'm a skilled individual, so of course I can easily do that. But yeah, subbed really helped me out. So now that we got all that out of the way, let me explain the cons to you on how I feel about those two going neck and neck together. Let's start off with the dub first. So like I mentioned earlier, dubbed is really cool since it's in our own language, but at the same time, you can't really get the same feeling, because of course the voice actors, they're good and all, but sometimes they're not, they don't really match the same intensity level of that character as the Japanese voice actor would. So that's why a lot of people do usually tend to poop on dubbed, because it's not the same. Voice actors just tend to lack emotion when it comes to actually portraying their lines about that character compared to a Japanese voice actor, where they were literally scream out their lines to get that right emotion and feel to that scene or that character compared to a voice actor. Let me give you guys a little example of what I mean. Warrior, you must get to the castle and save the princess before it's too late. Warrior, come on! We need to save the princess now before it's too late! As you guys can see by that cringy little skit that I did, those are both the same exact lines, but emotion adds all the effect to it. And plus, you gotta add music behind it, so you can't have intense music and then just have some monotone voice going along with it. You need to be able to match that emotion of the music. You have to be able to hype up the scene and get the audience pumped with you. They need to be able to be in the moment as you storm that castle and save that princess. So that's one point that I have to give the sub, because dubbed, of course there's good dubbed out there. For example, Dead Man Wonderland, Cowboy Bebop, Penny and Stocking right there. And of course there's plenty of course Naruto. There's plenty of good dubs out there. But for some anime, or I'll say most anime, there's rare occasions that the dubbed is actually really good, like the examples I just mentioned. But for most anime, the dubbed are kind of subpar and they don't really have emotion with the whole line compared to a subbed voice actor. So right there, that's one point going towards the subbed. Second con about dubbed. A lot of these anime aren't dubbed yet, so if you're just stuck on dubbed, then there's no way you can actually reach out of your horizons and find new shows that you might like. That's why it's always better to go over the sub, just a little bit, and just check out the original content, because there's a lot more shows that are still subbed compared to how they have to go through this whole process of becoming dubbed. It already takes them a while to translate the Japanese manga into English, let alone anime. So think about it, if you guys are just stuck on dubbed, then you're going to be missing out on a whole bunch of shows that you may like. I mean, the first show that I actually watched subbed was Tokyo Ghoul, and I've loved it ever since. That's the first show that I watched subbed, and oh my goodness, it was so crazy. I fell in love instantly. So right off the bat, another point goes over to subbed. Here's the third con about dubbed anime. Of course, it's the personal preference. Usually when I watch dubbed anime now, it's either because I got a really good recommendation from a friend or just some random stranger that I met at AX. Hey, you can meet people anywhere. Or if I'm just really sleepy and I don't feel like reading the subbed, that's how I usually find dubbed anime that I watch nowadays. But in my opinion, anime just doesn't sound the same if it's not in Japanese. And hey, I'm not trying to be a weeaboo or some kind of elitist, I'm just sharing my opinion. I feel that anime sounds better when it's actually in the original Japanese form, compared to if it's translated into English, French, Spanish, Swedish, every single other language you could think of that allows anime in their country. I just feel like it sounds better in the original Japanese audio. That's why, hey, if you guys don't want to watch subbed, at least try to watch one episode or something. Just try to broaden your horizons a little bit. But trust me, you don't want to get stuck on dub. One good anime that I know that's not dubbed yet would have to be Kotoro-san. And hey, don't try to say, well, they have fan dubs on YouTube. No. Most of the time, those are kind of cringy, and you can like hear their mic popping and all the wind blowing in the back, so it's not even the same. But hey, I'm not counting a British series because those aren't really like the legit episodes. Those are like a parody of it. Now let me talk about some of the cons of subbed anime. Hey, I'm not gonna sit here and say that subbed anime is the king of anime, you know? Of course it does have its cons. Let's go over voice acting. Of course, like I said, when it comes to dub, the voice actors can be a bit monotone. But for subbed anime, of course it could be in Japanese, but that doesn't always mean that it sounds good. Most of the time, the voices just don't match the character. Let's say for example, it could be a lolly, but she just sounds really annoying and a high-pitched voice. It's like, no, just give her a normal voice. Why? Like she sounds like you tried to make a really high voice like this, and then you just turn the pitch all the way up so it sounds like that. Like nobody wants to hear that. It just, if anything, it just hurts my ears, cause oh my. But just because it's in Japanese doesn't always mean that it's good, voice acting wise. Second con about subbed anime. Of course, since it's in Japanese, there needs to be some kind of translator or some kind of medium in order to put their subs over it so we actually know what they're saying. Because once again, when anime is shown in Japan, it's raw footage. They don't have subs in Japan since they speak the language. Pretty much how, let's say for example, here in the US of A, if you're watching SpongeBob, you don't see subtitles at the bottom because it's in English, we understand it. But of course in Japan, it's in Japanese, so they understand it, so that's their language. They don't need subtitles for their own language. That makes no sense. And most of the time, the subtitles are pretty good, they're accurate, they're right on the button. But there's some shows where they don't really have a professional translator, so they have fan subs that do it. And sometimes they mess up the actual sub itself, so like if anything it just doesn't make any sense, or they have like a little grammar error in the sub, so then you end up reading it, then like, you know, if your brain's fast enough, you can like try to switch it up and actually make the sentence make sense. But if you're not fast enough, then you're gonna end up reading that wrong. Then once you read something wrong, like your whole brain doesn't get messed up, then you're like, wait, that's supposed to be blah blah blah, blah blah blah. And at that point in the show, you're thinking blah 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 was supposed to go like that, then blah blah blah. And then, oh, look at that, you just missed a vital plot point right there. So now, one little small mistake in the sub just messed up the whole plot for you. So once you get to the end, once they reveal the whole big surprise, you're gonna be like, wait, they never said that. Yes, they did, but you just got distracted by the sub. Since we're already on the subject, I'm just gonna go over the dubbed and subbed anime games. For example, Persona 5 that my friend has put me on, and I'm loving it so far. Or Naruto, how you can choose to go with dubbed or sub language. That is really cool about these Japanese made games because you can always switch over. That's the case, like let's say for example you're watching a show in English and you can play the game in English. Or if you're watching it in sub and you want to try out English, you have that opportunity instead of just having to stick with subbed. That's what's really cool about Japanese games. I love how they give you an actual option in order to choose how you want to play the game and how you want to hear each character. In the end, I would have to go with subbed anime because it won by this much over dubbed anime. Because the thing about subbed, it has a lot more variety of shows compared to dubbed. Hey, but don't get me wrong, I love my dubbed anime. And recently, I just rewatched Dead Man Wonderland dubbed and I loved it. But in my opinion, subbed is better by that much. But hey, like I said, my opinion, so please don't hurt me in the comment section, guys. Just sharing how I feel about it. If you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit that like button. Comment if you enjoyed the video. If you didn't like it, comment what you didn't like and how I can improve. If you guys want to subscribe to my channel for more daily content, press that button right there. If you guys want to see even more content, click right there, and I'll see you guys in a second if you guys do click that one. And as always, it's not like I wanted to talk to you guys or anything. Fuck. Later, guys.